Hey everybody, welcome back to the Damage Report. I'm John Iadarola, flying John solo today. So thank you for joining me on today's show. I might not have a co-host, but I have a packed rundown, which I vaguely remember putting together. I remember some of the stuff that's on. No, it's very important. We're gonna be focusing a lot on Donald Trump trying and mostly failing to deal with the fallout of his disastrous and boneheaded economic policies. The fact accompanied to that right-wing media is increasingly acknowledging his failures in those areas, and how he and members of his administration are just dog crap messengers when it comes to that sort of thing. All the way from him and his economic advisors to the Secretary of Transportation, none of them know how to just look at the American people eye to eye, say, I hear you, I understand the issue, and I'm gonna help you one of these days, not just Elon Musk. None of them can seem to do that. And so that's gonna be a lot of fun for us to talk about, because it's really hurting him in the polls, which perhaps we'll talk about that a little bit too. And we've got updates on DHS. Kristi Noem and the DHS are having fun on the internet around Christmas. I bet it's gonna be very cool stuff that they're doing. We'll find out together. More corruption with Jared Kushner. And both Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump suddenly not so interested in releasing that video. You remember the boat strike video that's totally cool and awesome and alpha and doesn't make them look like war criminals at all? Suddenly they don't want to release it anymore. But anyway, we're gonna be talking about all that and more. I did want to give you an early heads up. I'll probably talk more later on the show. Supposedly, as of right now, the plan is that tonight I'm going to be appearing on the program on CNN. A friend of the show, Alex Michelson, he has a show called The Story Is. I'm supposed to be appearing live in studio tonight, and I say that to you so that all of you watching live can tune in live, maybe tweet at them that you'd like them to bring me on more. This is the first time I'm going on CNN since literally like the opening days of the pandemic. So I'm gonna try not to ruin it and be too much myself. I'm gonna try to not question the presence of testicles in members of the administration or anything. We'll see. I'm gonna try. I'm probably gonna fail. I'm probably gonna talk about testicles. But anyway, I'll also hopefully talk about the news, bring a progressive perspective and all that. It should be a lot of fun because Alex is awesome. So anyway, we got a lot to talk about. So hit the like button, share the stream, send us your comments, your tweets, or super chats. If you want a chance at a Blue Apron gift card, if you want a chance that I will remember to give one out, you're gonna have to send in some good comments so that I can hopefully choose you. And Darth Hefe saying that would spice up CNN's coverage. We'll see, we'll see. Anyway, with that said, why don't we jump into the news, starting with this?
I'm delighted to announce this afternoon that the United States will be taking a small portion of the hundreds of billions of dollars we receive in tariffs, and we're going to be giving and providing it to the farmers in economic assistance. And we love our farmers, and as you know, the farmers like me, unfortunately under sleepy Joe Biden, he's a sleepy guy, our farmers were crushed.
Yeah, they were so crushed under Joe Biden's disastrous, foolish, smooth-brained tariff policies that Donald Trump's got to swoop in and save them because he loves the farmers. And I don't know, maybe this is actually how love manifests for Donald Trump. He obviously treated his kids horribly. He cheats on his wife. Maybe screwing over the farmers with this tariff policy, because you don't understand how economics works here in the US or internationally, is actually how he showcases his love. But regardless, the Biden stuff is a total dodge. This is not an issue of Joe Biden's making. We've covered plenty of those. This one is squarely in the lap of Donald Trump. He decided to do the tariffs. And thus, other countries decided to do, as we said they would, retaliatory tariffs. They decided to buy products, including agricultural products, from a number of other countries, thus screwing over our farmers. They sold a lot less. They had to pay more for the things that they bought internationally. So they got hit coming and going. And so Donald Trump has decided, well, don't worry, I'm gonna be awesome and I'm gonna give them $6 billion in this bailout. But this, he's trying to pitch it as good news. This is bad news for him and for farmers in basically every way you can think of. We're not even gonna be able to cover all of them. First of all, let's just be clear. This is yet more tariff taco from Donald Trump. This is another acknowledgement that, oopsie doopsie, I'm a dumbass and I didn't know what I was talking about. I didn't understand it. I refused to listen to the experts, and they said that this would hurt the farmers, and it did. So I'm not backing off necessarily on some of the tariffs, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give back to the farmers some of the money that I stole from them. Notably, some of the money, not even all of the money. And by the way, if as we jump into the details, all of this sounds kind of familiar to you and you're like, hey, wait, get a bit of deja vu there. Didn't we do this already? Yes, we very much did. In Donald Trump's first term, this same exact thing had to be done because although his tariffs were not quite as wild or as broad-based in his first term as they are in the second, they did impact the farmers. So like he maybe could have been, like he could have made a case that he was surprised for how it went in his first term, but he can't pretend to be surprised now. And he certainly can't pretend that this is the fault of sleepy Joe Biden because we're just rebooting this as our culture is rebooting so many things. And yes, let's just briefly acknowledge the obvious projection from Donald Trump about the sleepiness. The dude knows that everybody's talking about the fact that he falls asleep on a daily basis, no matter where he is. He could be cruising down a roller coaster and that dude would be nodding off. So anyway, that's the only reason that he brings it up. So let's talk a little bit about this money, what it'll do, what it can't do, okay? So most of the relief funds will come from the Agriculture Department's Farmer Bridge Assistance Program. That money will go to producers of a number of different products. The payments will be made by the end of February. Initially, $11 billion will be distributed and $1 billion more will be reserved to go to growers of fruits and vegetables as needed. Here's the issue though. It is going to be far less money for the individual farms and farmers than what they've already lost. So by design, this is not going to make them whole. Setting aside the fact that none of this needed to happen at all. And importantly, that once the funds go out, it's not like we're good now. China's still not gonna be buying our products. And thanks to Donald Trump and the way he's handled this, they might never buy those products again. And so let's say that this does 1/4, 1/3 make the farmers whole. What about next month? What about Q1, Q2? How is 2026 gonna go for these farmers? We're just gonna, we gonna do these bailouts every couple of months? This is no way to run a government nor an economy. So anyway, let's talk about how this will look for individual farmers. So we have the Undersecretary of the Agriculture Department said that the most that any individual or legal entity could receive was $155,000. And you have to have had adjusted gross income less than $900,000. So I don't really have a problem with that. Obviously, a lot of times when we hear about farmers, we think about like small family farms. We think about like, the Wizard of Oz or something, but there's a lot of mega farms. That's not what this is going to, so good. This is one of the less corrupt things that Donald Trump is doing, I suppose. But there are, it's similar to limits in other farm programs. And it's expected that it'll cover only 1/3 of farmers' losses at best. And again, their losses up until right now, not going forward. It's not gonna fix them later on. There's been estimates by some actual experts who care about the numbers, not just their gut feeling that they have about how tariffs work since the 80s, that crop producers will lose between $35 and $43 billion on what they just harvested this fall, as the trade war with China is not their only problem. You also have the cost of key supplies have been rising for years. Interest rates on their production loans remain high. Prices farmers are receiving on the world market for most crops are below what they spend to actually produce them. And obviously, if you've been paying attention to farming in America, the US government has done a lot of subsidies in the past. So it's not even like this is the first time that this has been done. Obviously, it's not. Donald Trump himself has done it. The government does this sort of thing. It's just that Donald Trump has found a way to do even more of it than we already were. And importantly, without acknowledging the reason we have to do this. In fact, he pretends that it's Joe Biden, and sure, he's not gonna do that. He's Donald Trump. He doesn't have the masculine essence necessary to take responsibility for what he's done, to own up, to swear that you will do better in the future, whatever. Okay, he's never gonna do that. But like he's not giving any sign that he internally is gonna do that. Like not admit it, not acknowledge it, but adapt in the future, go in a different direction. There's no reason, there is no reason to believe that he's gonna do that. And so, look forward to doing this bailout in 3 months, maybe in 6 months, maybe right before the midterms, to make it seem as if he's not in every way possible screwing over rural parts of this country, which he very much is. And that's what he's doing. And still pretending that his tariffs do not harm farmers, even though every time he gets into office, he reinstitutes his war on farms. I don't know why Donald Trump has such a problem with farms. They make so many of the things he loves shoving in his face, but for some reason, every time he tries to stick it to him. And Donald Trump's war on farms has gotten so bad at this point that, again, even Fox News has been backed into a corner and has to acknowledge it. Here is Brett Hume.
No doubt the tariffs are a factor in this, Brett. There's no getting around that. And it's put the president now in a position where he's got to try to help the farmers. They're calling it a bridge, but it's not a bridge loan. This is a subsidy. This 11 or 12 billion dollars are going to be paid out is simply money that's going to go into the pockets of these farmers who are hurting. I don't dispute that for a second, but it is a president who is otherwise mostly conservative on economic policies, engaging in a government program to try to bail out farmers who are hurt by his other program, that of course being the tariffs.
So that's Britt Hume, and I think I understood most of what he was saying. He's falling apart in terms of his ability to express himself. But he says he's been forced to do this to help the farmers. Yeah, but it's not being forced if you forced yourself. If it's the consequences of your actions now knocking at the door, that's still you. That's just like a funny metaphor we come up with. He's still responsible for that. And at a certain point, can we question this idea that he's conservative in his economics? Like at a certain point, how many weird, never before done economic things can he do before we stop saying that? Like literally taking control of at least portions of private industries. That's way further than any Democrat has done. That's further than people like Bernie or AOC even implied that they would do. He's doing that. By the way, he just announced yesterday on some of the chips that he's gonna now allow China to have, that we're gonna get, the US government's gonna get paid for it, so there's that. We're gonna be talking about later on in this show, the price controls that he wants to put on some foreign produced and imported food. None of this is conservative. By the way, I wouldn't even say that it's a left or a right thing. The main issue is that the only driving force in terms of his economic policy is a personal benefit, the benefit of his class. He's class conscious in that particular way, and then he pursues all of that without learning, without going by the experts and all that. And when the consequences of that come true and it starts to hurt him in terms of the polling, then he scrambles and comes up with some band-aid fix to fix it. So you give $11 billion to the farmers, you give $1,000 in a stimulus check to regular people. You just try to patch the holes as they develop just long enough to end your term and go home, billions of dollars richer than you already were, with massive advantages having accrued to the companies that you represent. That's his economic philosophy. It's not really ideological. It's coldly selfish and pragmatic. And wildly corrupt, of course. But that said, before we move on to other parts of this, we do have a little bit more from his announcement, which I think is gonna paint him in a great light. Take a look.
Farming equipment has gotten too expensive. And a lot of the reason is because they put these environmental excesses on the equipment, which don't do a damn thing except make it complicated, make it impractical. And you really have to be, in many cases, you need about 185 IQ to turn on a lawnmower.
You're so right, President Trump. I have no idea what you're talking about, but if I'm seen to be the one who's not laughing, that's gonna be bad for me. This is how a government should be run. What is he talking about? I want you to answer seriously, honestly. When was the last time Donald Trump touched a piece of farm equipment? When is the last time Donald Trump sat in the driver's seat of a regular passenger automobile? He knows how to turn it on, he knows how hard. By the way, I don't think we should be judging how much more complicated these environmental regulations or whatever make in terms of farming equipment based on him, when he's the guy that is constantly talking about how difficult it is for him to operate, like toilets and dishwashers and stuff like that. I think that this guy just has a very difficult time maneuvering through the physical world. I don't think that really says much about him or about us or the environmental policy. It's really just about him. And again, the idea, it does nothing but make it more complicated. Well, does it perhaps help the environment? You can say that that's not worth it, but it's doing that, right? And the environment is not just some abstract thing. We're gonna be talking more this week about a trip that I recently took focused on the environment and the fact that although Donald Trump doesn't really care what happens to our natural world, there are great people and organizations working to renew it, reinvigorate it. But it's people. It's people. It's the quality of our air, our soil, our water. It's the world we dwell in. He's in a skyscraper or whatever. We live in this thing. It affects our health, and for many people, very negatively. So these things do actually provide a good. I don't have time to focus on it any more than that, but let's just acknowledge that as we proceed into a little bit more on the tariffs.
We are making a lot of money from countries that took advantage of us for years. They took advantage of us like nobody's ever seen. Our deficits are way down because of tariffs. I guess because of the election, because without the election, you wouldn't have tariffs. You'd be sitting here losing your shirt. But we're taking in billions. We're really taking in trillions of dollars, if you think about it, Scott, because the real numbers, when you think of all the money being poured into the country for new auto plants and all of the other things, AI.
Yeah, thank God we're getting that more of the AI. That's all good. I think everybody at this point expects that that's going to work out really well for the economy and even for the stock market in the long term. But he doesn't know because he's making money off of it now. Again, he's always against these things, perhaps reasonably so, until he figures out a way to either individually make money off of it or be paid off. That's how it worked for TikTok. That's how it worked for crypto. That's how it's working for AI as well. There's a reason all of those billionaires were sitting behind him at his inauguration. And look, they're getting what they want. And so we don't have deficits anymore, supposedly. I mean, that's not true, but let's pretend that it is. Oh, and he's pulling in so much more money. In fact, trillions of dollars. Forget who it is that's actually paying for it, i.e. you and me. Forget all of that. It's just great for the economy. That's why everybody's doing so well. And it's always a good sign of the economy when they refuse to release any economic data anymore. That's a confidence play. They don't want to brag, you see. And that's why people feel that things are doing so well. I mean, nobody, not even libs, certainly not MAGA, could deny that things are moving in such a good direction. That's why after almost a year now of Donald Trump's completely unregulated full stop tariff policy, people think that its effect on things like inflation in the US is, they think it's bad actually. They think that it hurts inflation, despite Donald Trump saying the opposite, because sure, he's saying inflation doesn't exist, but they're actually experiencing it. And so 63% say the tariffs hurt inflation. 10% say it helps inflation. The hell are those people smoking, and how can they afford it considering the inflation we're experiencing? 8% think that the countries we've imposed tariffs on are being benefited. There are some shockingly optimistic people here considering all that we've been through. 58% think that it overall hurts the US economy. 55% say their individual family's financial situation has been hurt. Only 8% say that their family is better off thanks to Donald Trump's tariffs. That is not even just Trump only getting MAGA. That's not even Trump getting core MAGA. That's Donald Trump not even getting 1/3 of core MAGA on his core economic policy. And he has no one to blame but himself. This is all his idea. Nobody else was pushing for this. Republicans in Congress and the Senate were not pushing for this, just him. And he's gotten it. It's been barely checked in any way. Congress has no interest in getting involved for the most part. And so it's been running wild and it's been doing everything that he thought it would, but not what we said it would. And look, 8% think that it's helping their family and that's it. Now, there's a couple of different things where theoretically it could be beneficial, and the polling actually does show that. So is it helping US manufacturing companies? So look, overall, people still think that it's hurting even there, but more than some of the other categories, 28% say I guess it's helping them. And that is, in the long term, the only argument to be made for it. But importantly, that's like the 7th argument Donald Trump is making for it. And the gaslighting about how it's gonna help everybody, every family, and instantly. It's not about some sort of like shared national experiment of economic pain to build the future. He could have been honest, he could have been forthright with the American people and pitched it in that way, but he chose not to. And what do you know? People noticed, okay? They paid attention and that's why they've turned away from this policy. And right now, like he might be saved, honestly, despite himself, because the Supreme Court potentially could strike back against this. He's lost a couple of lower court rulings. He could stop overall. He could end up having it reversed overall. And he would certainly perceive that as a terrible thing, but arguably way better for the American people, the American economy, and also probably better for his polls. There's a case to be made that there is nothing that could happen between now and the midterms that would be more beneficial for Donald Trump than if the Supreme Court were to tear apart his tariff apparatus. I mean, maybe to tear apart mass deportation, but that's less likely to happen. And I don't think it would have as strong of an effect. And so this is what he built, and it's playing out not how he said it would, but how we said it would. In any event, we have other news to get to on this topic. So let's jump into one more story. You think we should take a break? You want to? Okay. No, let's push through. I don't think this one's gonna be particularly long, and it's thematically quite linked to what we've already talked about. So let's jump into more of the economy. For a couple of weeks now, even Fox News hosts have been raising the alarm about the way that Donald Trump has been handling the economy. Not necessarily like criticizing specific things, but making clear that it is not going well for him in terms of the polling. He needs to do something to turn this around. And some of them are not, hiding the fact that there is inflation, that prices are going up, all of that. And Trump, for the most part, hadn't really weighed in. He's been pretty quick to criticize Fox News in the past, but I think he's just been really busy over the past couple of weeks because female reporters are near him and he cannot abide that. But he finally did get around to catching up on a little bit of Fox News, and he was not happy with what he saw. So he posted on True Social, "Why would Fox and Friends Weekend, of all things, put on a stockbroker in quotation marks," which makes me wonder, is he a stockbroker? I assumed he was. Maybe he's not. I don't know. Maybe he's cosplaying. But anyway, his name is Peter Schiff. He's a Trump-hating loser who has already proven to be wrong. Peter Schiff has been proven to be wrong on the economy, to be clear. Not Donald Trump. Not Donald Trump at all on tariffs or anything like that. Either the show made a mistake or is heading in a different direction. He thinks prices are going up when, in fact, they are coming substantially down. We'll return to that in just a sec. Gasoline hit $1.99 a gallon yesterday in certain states, and it's down big since Biden. We'll return to that too. Other prices are almost all down. Biden caused the affordability crisis, which he is causing a hoax along with everything else. Much of it, like the capital B border, is already fixed. Check out the booker who put this jerk on. Dude, regular people reading your tweet don't know who the booker of Fox and Friends Weekend is, and I don't want them to go find out. What is the best case scenario for that social media post? That the booker on that show gets death threats? What is the goal here, Donald Trump? Pay attention, you're trying to message here. So let's talk about some of the messaging that he actually did, because it's interesting. So all prices are down, which we know is untrue. So he has not turned away from the strategy of lying to people's faces about the experience they have every time they go to buy a product. He still thinks that's a great idea, great aides around him, and great messaging control from him. So interestingly, gasoline hit $1.99 a gallon yesterday, which is weird. Because hasn't he been bragging about less than $2 a gallon gas for months and months and months? Why did it just happen yesterday? Or did it go down in February and then it shot back up and now it's back down? Why does it continually drop below $2? Of course, the issue is that it hasn't dropped below $2 at all. He has been lying about that the entire time. He continues to lie about it. And I will prove how much more you should trust me on this issue than him by being honest about the fact that although he's lying, gas prices are actually down. I looked it up. I wasn't sure. I haven't looked up in a little bit. I used to on the pre-port do a day-by-day analysis of it. I looked it up and it is actually down. And look at this. Even a guy with Trump derangement syndrome can admit that gas prices are down. Now, they are on average across America $2.89, and then rounding up basically $2.90. So almost $1 more than he said. Almost 50% more than he said. So it is a vicious lie, but credit to Donald Trump, they are actually down. 7 cents a gallon from a year ago, which is good. I want it to be down 7 cents, but did people rush to the polls to vote for Donald Trump because he said, "Read my lips, America, 1 year of economic chaos and you'll get 7 cent cheaper gas"? No, he definitely didn't say that. And that's why he's not bragging about the progress he's actually made. He's inventing fictional, fantastical progress that doesn't exist in the real world. He is lying to people, and it's on True Social, so he's not lying to you. You're not on True Social. He's kind of lying to me. Why am I on True Social? But he's definitely lying to his base on True Social. Again, a weird way to message. But anyway, what's with the Peter Schiff thing? Why is he focusing so much on that? Well, here's the segment that apparently got him so worked up.
Gas prices may be a little lower for now. I don't think they're going to stay this low much longer, but most other prices are higher. I mean, yes, they're not rising at 9% a year yet, but they're continuing to rise. And so if people can afford things before Trump was elected, those things are more expensive now. And I think that the inflation rate is going to accelerate, as Trump's term progresses. And the policies continue to impact prices.
If you look closely at some of the faces in that B-roll, it's a horrifying experience. But yeah, Peter Schiff is just saying, look, some of that is his speculation. Okay, he's talking about what he thinks will happen. We can't say for sure that that is the case. But when he talks about the fact that prices are up, I'm sorry, Trump. I'm sorry. Okay, quiet down, pigskin. That's just the case. The prices are up. And look, if telling people that they're wrong and they're paying less than they think worked, it would have worked 4 months ago, 3 months ago, 2 months ago. It doesn't. And that's what Trump is saying. But we're going to end with this. What does he actually think is happening? Well, you can tell, not in what he says in press conferences or on social media, but on what he doesn't say and what he doesn't allow other people to say. And so, in addition to jobs data for multiple months now, he doesn't want that to get out. And all these organizations need to look around and scrape and claw together some sort of indication of the jobs data. Trump is refusing to share pre-holiday inflation reports, the first time a month has been skipped in 12 years. And you tell me, is Donald Trump doing that because he's modest? Or is he doing that because he doesn't think it'll reflect well on him? And by the way, this is months of data we don't have right now. They skipped October's report. November's report isn't going to come out until January 14th if they release it at all. So months of inflation data being hidden from you as Donald Trump tells you against all the evidence of your own eyes and your own spending that inflation is actually down. And if there's any lingering problems, it's all Sleepy Joe. Okay. Well, we'll see how that works out for him. We need to take our first break. Lots more after this. Hey everybody, so let's see what's going on out there. Mark NYC says, be anyone but Brett on CNN tonight, John, as if anyone else other than Brett could be Brett. Yeah, why isn't Brett getting brought onto these shows? He'd be awesome. But anyway, yes, so what they're referencing there, if you're just joining us now, is I am supposedly going to be joining. The story is with Alex Michelson tonight, I think at 9 Pacific, so quite late on the East Coast. But you stay up until midnight to support me or whatever. And talking about some news. I have no idea what, but I'm going to try to represent the Dragon Squad and the show as well as I can. And we'll see how it goes. I did actually, for historical sake, I was brought onto Chris Cuomo's show one time right before the pandemic began. And I did such a good job that they only held off bringing me back on for 5.5 years. And so I think if I really focus, do my studying and stuff, I think I could probably be back on by 2030. But anyway, let's see. Someone did fact check me about him being behind the wheel of a vehicle. M Losing says, well, he was in a garbage truck. And it's just Vegas says, you're gonna steal that from me. M Losing too. John refuses to read anything I say, LOL. And that actually got me to read it that time. Doesn't generally happen. Did we see Emma Vigeland on CNN? She slayed. I didn't see her most recent appearance, but I have seen her multiple times and she's awesome. She should be a regular. It's great that she's located in New York so she can do the New York shows, but no, she's great and a great representative for our actual side of the aisle and the ideology. Asmod's Prophet says the 18th hole is the furthest Trump has gone into nature. I think technically, Brett, isn't like the 4th hole? What would actually be the farthest into nature? Anyway, I'm still new, but I am hopefully gonna be playing this weekend. Anyway, Brett looks like he's in the chat. So no more compliments to Brett. Okay, 4 to 5. Those are the holes that are apparently farthest into nature. Depends on the track. Okay, let's see. Yoda Suave, member for 58 months, says, you've only known me as Yoda this whole time, John, but I would not prefer if you called me by my biological name of Jay. Thank you for your attention to this matter. But I would not prefer if you called me by my biological name of Jay. You would not, well, I assume you wrote in because you would prefer it. But now I don't know exactly what I should call you, so I'm sorry. Anyway, thank you for being here regardless. Hopefully we get some clarification on that at some point. Okay, let's see. Tom Pedigo, member for 29 months, says yay for 29 months. Thank you, yay for all of you. By the way, my counter is out of date since I was gone in the great green north, so I'm gonna have to figure that out where it's actually supposed to be. Okay, we still have a minute, let's see. Teo says, oh, this is a great point from Teo. Teo says in the members' comments, he gave more money to Argentina than he's giving to the farmers that he is screwing with his trade war. Teo 1790, I'm gonna give you a Blurpin gift card. Send an email to rewards@tytnetwork.com and we're gonna get you set up with that. Yeah, because think about it. He gave, was it 20 or did it end up being $40 billion? So he's gonna give 11 billion to the farmers, but they just said in the analysis that that's only gonna cover maybe a third of what they've lost. So like my immediate math is, couldn't we give them 33 billion and just cover all of what Trump stole from them? I mean, that would still be less than Argentina. I don't know. Scott Bessent apparently sold his soy farm recently, so maybe that's why they're not giving more. If he could benefit from that, I'm sure that they would pump some more money into that. Anyway, let's see. Zach Weiler says, co-host John wears a suit. Thought I had a little bit more time on that. Anyway, welcome back to the show, everyone. We've got more news to talk about, so let's jump into this. The Trump administration is apparently so desperate to convince people that their immigration policy is anything other than an evil and barbaric mess, and especially desperate to juice the supposed numbers of these migrants they've deported so they can pretend that it's a bunch of, murderers and cannibals and all of that stuff. It's not, but they just want big numbers. So they've come up with what just might be the stupidest waste of money and waste of time, waste of psychic energy to make themselves feel good about mass deportation. And here it is. They're gonna be deploying tons of additional DHS and ICE officers to border crossings, not to stop people sneaking in, but to stop migrants self-deporting. So rather than just let them leave, which they say is the thing they want to happen, they're instead gonna seize them and put them through proceedings that's gonna take tons of time and cost tens, if not hundreds of billions of dollars. It's already incredibly expensive, and they found a way to make it more expensive. Now, why would you do that? I mean, you could just let them go. It's because then it doesn't like appear on a chart, and line has to go up. This is so stupid. Okay, under this plan, they're gonna have ICE work with Customs and Border Patrol officers in targeted operations at land ports along the southern border. They would arrest people attempting to self-remove after being in the US without legal authorization. Agents would target commercial buses passing through ports of entry into Mexico, according to the plan document, which was labeled sensitive. Seems more like it should be labeled insensitive, but maybe that's just me being woke. Anyway, this is literally just a bunch of people on a bus. Maybe one or two of them are undocumented. And you're gonna hold up everybody's time and stop them from leaving so you can instead arrest them. This is how stupid and self-sabotaging and moronic and such a waste of money this mass deportation policy is. It's a wonder that so many people have turned against it. Now, because everything that this administration does has to have a stupid name applied to it, they've apparently tentatively named the effort Operation Irish Goodbye, a reference to the act of slipping out of a bar or party without bidding farewell to your friends. Again, like the idea is what? The idea is is what? That you're clever? Is that supposed to be clever? Again, is that supposed to distract us from the fact that this is a waste of time and money, that this is gonna make travel across the border inconvenient for literally everyone, whether they're undocumented or a goddamn United States citizen? That especially around the holidays when everybody is already bound up too much at these ports of entry at airports and all of that, you're gonna somehow find a way to make everything take a little bit longer so that you can stop someone from leaving the thing that you say you want them to do. You've even produced ads. You spent $50, $100 million producing ads telling people to self-deport. And now when they finally do it, you're instead gonna arrest them, but it's clever because it's Operation Irish Goodbye. It's a great government we've got here. In any event, their webpage on the so-called self-deportation process urges those who aren't here legally to leave on your own initiative. If you're illegally present in the US, you don't have to and shouldn't wait for ICE officials to arrest you. Instead, you can leave on your own terms. I guess they cut off the psych at the bottom of that because no, you actually can't leave on your own terms. That would be too simple. I don't even like that, but at least that would be the system you set up working. Nope, it's gotta be a little bit more dehumanizing and a whole lot dumber and more expensive. Because importantly, this money goes somewhere, lots of it, sure, some of it is being spent on these officers, a lot of it goes to contractors and all of that stuff. And so massive, massive waste of money. And by the way, we've done a lot of coverage throughout this year on mass deportation, and it's all been stupid. It's all been a massive waste of time. But I thought it would be interesting if we just briefly acknowledge the end state of all of it. So what have they done with all of this? Okay, banging down the doors, throwing the flashbangs into people's apartments, tear gas, and all the protests and the counter protests and the demonizing people and all that stuff. At the end of the year, they expect that they will have deported nearly 600,000 people. Joe Biden in 2024 deported 685,000 people. Now, it's not exactly the same thing because like with Obama, the vast majority of the deportations that were happening were from the band of land right along the border. These are people they're caught right when they're crossing, whereas Donald Trump is doing more of hunting down people, that are in the center of America that have been here for years, if not decades. So it's a lot stupider than what Joe Biden was doing. But even then, after all of this and spending a mountain of your tax dollars, they're not even gonna match what Joe Biden did in 2024. And importantly, no matter how high these numbers get, the deportations are not what they've made them out to be. I'll remind you, in Washington, D.C., remember, they invaded, they cowed the city, they put their boot on its neck. 84% of those arrested by ICE have faced no criminal charges in the US. 2% have a conviction for a violent crime. That's lower than chance. That's lower than random frickin' chance. And again, it's a reminder, by the way, what have we always said about migrants here in the United States? What is the inconvenient fact that any conservative would rather die than acknowledge? That these migrants commit crimes at lower rates than native-born Americans. And not because, they're just made of better stuff or whatever. It's because they're terrified of being caught and deported, so they tend to be on good behavior. That's just how it works. Not how I say it should work, not how hypothetically it works, how the stats have proven it works over many, many years, and this is yet more evidence of that. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. I think we should take our second. No, we'll continue. Okay, we'll continue on. I have a bad read for what we're doing. We're gonna continue on with related news. In fact, maybe this will be a bit of a disgusting palate cleanser. Let's jump into this. DHS and ICE, they have a real problem. The entire mass deportation policy has been built on an absolute foundation of lies about who these migrants are, what they're doing in America. Really, they've tried to convince people that breaking up families, stripping people out of communities that they've worked in, lived in for years or decades, built relationships on, multi-generational things, all of that, that somehow, if you do that, and if you do that enough, and if you put enough money into it, that'll fix everybody's problems. The right has tried to message that sometimes in sophisticated ways, sometimes like with Benny Johnson, I think they literally just say that every problem in your life is caused by undocumented migrants or whatever. But the issue with that is that's not how it works, because it can't be how it works. And people are waking up to that, and the polls are turning against Donald Trump on immigration as they are on every other policy. And so, yeah, their base is getting a little bit antsy. This was supposed to be the cure-all. This was supposed to solve societal problems. This was supposed to solve the problems of them, like once seeing a person from Honduras or whatever, all these big problems that they have. But it hasn't solved those problems. It hasn't solved their economic problems. It's not leading to more jobs, not leading to the price of homes coming down. And so what do you do like when your base is getting antsy? Well, they're gonna do the only thing they ever think to do, memes. And somehow that's gonna right the ship. So Homeland Security on Twitter put out this one. You see? They used AI to put lights on a person or something in Santa hats, and it says, "You're going ho ho home," because Christmas or something. Does that make you feel better? Not you in the audience, obviously it's not going to. It's grotesque. But like if you're a MAGA person, you clicked on this video and like you're typing something about me being like a woke commie scum or something, just pause for a second in that comment and you tell me, does that solve your family's problems? Your economic problems, your problems with getting a good job, buying a home, your kids going to school, you paying for your health insurance. Is it better because like they have hats on? And why are all of their memes about just putting a hat on a thing? Is this not getting a little bit repetitive to anybody? That's not all they did though. They also did this. This is literally a thing that the Department of Homeland Security put out. It's a GIF in the form they did, and it's just Trump with a hat on. Again, you have to put a hat on everything, and he's dancing. That one doesn't even have words. Like there's not a migrant in the video. There's nothing about deportation. It's literally, why is he Santa? What does that have to do with anything? I don't know. The issue is that Homeland Security, for as much as I hate the leadership of it, and as much as I hate, even down to the level of whichever intern posted this stuff, I hate your guts. I want to be clear about that. But they are in a difficult position. Let's acknowledge that. Let's use the empathy we have that they're incapable of. Because like, what else do they do? Again, they have to deport people and it's not solving problems, and it's costing a bunch of money. They can't change the policy. They're not gonna change the policy. And they have to message, but like who are they messaging to? That was put out on Twitter. It's a cesspool. That crappy intern, that horrible, immoral intern or whatever, they know that. So what are they gonna do? Something like, I don't know, sophisticated, substantive, policy-based, compassionate? How's that gonna work? Is that gonna get you the retweets? The algorithm will bury that. So you gotta do something. And also, most of this messaging is for Donald Trump. So yeah, it makes no logical, rational sense to put him as Santa, but that's kind of what he wants to see. And then you got this, and it's another GIF. It's this guy with one hand visible, one hand on a mouse, scrolling through photos of male undocumented immigrants. And like, he's not explicitly masturbating, but the entire thing has such a jacking off energy. And I don't get what, like, okay, I know that some of the guys on your side, that like, I don't want to kink shame. Okay, historically we don't kink shame or whatever, but why post it though? Couldn't you just jack off? I don't get it. Okay, again, kink shaming, I understand some people, they want to like bring other people in, even non-consensually, which is where it gets into a gray area that I'm not super comfortable with, and they want you to be a part of their thing. But like, you can just look at the pictures of the guys. I'm sure some of them are handsome. I'm not downing on you for that, or I just don't get it necessarily. One thing I do get though, and I'll end on this, is this post from Homeland Security. I was on their thing, so I just kept scrolling. It's a post about secure America's future. And that's, for normal people, that's a strange thing to say, right? But if you've been paying attention to American politics, do you know why they worded it that way? Anybody in the chat? Why did they say secure America's future? Not like protect our borders or even deport the brownies or whatever, disgusting stuff they would say. Why secure America's future? It's because of the 14 words. It's, we must secure the existence of our people and a future for white children. That's literally all that they're referencing right there. But we're crazy for calling them racists or Nazis or fascists or whatever. They're literally trying to message to the Nazis online with their little posts. Great job. Oh, very Christian, by the way. Anyway, we're gonna take a short break. More to get to after this. That's the sort of stuff I'm not gonna say on Alex's show, to be clear. I hope I don't end up, I don't always know when I start doing a segment, but like, you tell me that you look at that image and why is his shoulder bare? Why are his clothes askew if he's not masturbating? Come on. Anyway, you have to be realistic. That's what I've always felt. Okay, so let's see. Nicodemus says, were the Epstein files on the boat? Well, some people, including, I see posts on Mediaite of, I can't follow every comedian who has a podcast, but one of them who is notable enough for Mediaite to write about him says that they're just bombing the boats to distract from the Epstein files, which is a perfectly good theory from my point of view. Let's see. Dodger, member for 17 months, says, I hate your guts. Let me be clear about that. Are the first words I heard when I joined. Thanks, John. Not you. I don't know you super well. I'm sure I don't hate your guts. I mean, comment more. Give me a little bit more data to base it on. Maybe I hate your guts. I don't know. I'm not inclined to, but you're not working as an intern for DHS right now. Okay, let's see. Jay posts another super chat saying, I meant now prefer my biological name. It was a bad joke on the HHS name being changed in the White House last week. Please still call me Yoda. Oh, yeah, I remember I was out a little bit. I don't know what that's a reference to with HHS. But anyway, okay, Yoda, I will continue with that. Gargle Dragon says, just got back from the doctors and found my blood pressure wasn't as high as I thought. I thought if they poked me, I'd be a fire hose the way this administration keeps me worried, angry, and annoyed. Totally get that. What is it called when like your mental state has physical implications? Is that moving beyond my knowledge? I'm being a real RFK Jr. here, but is that somatic? Is that what that means? But anyway, both my wife and I have experienced this week waking up with terrible neck and shoulder pain, which is almost certainly stress-based. Anyway, so I'm feeling it too. Okay. Shay Vaughn says in a super chat, I need the press pool to be the cast of SNL. I would blow my entire budget to see him ask Michael Che or Leslie Jones if they were a stupid person. That would be great. I mean, out of the two, I would definitely choose Leslie Jones. I've been on the receiving end of a roast from Leslie Jones, so I know how rough she can get. I would love to put her in there. Anyway, Miss Chivo says John should accidentally order himself another bundt cake. Too soon. Too soon. Don't worry, I went to Randy's Donuts and got some donuts recently. I'm eating more than my share of sugar. Okay, by the way, you wanna know how I know that my daughter is my daughter? I woke her up. She instantly wanted to be taken out of her crib, which is usually what she does when she wants to go like play with a particular toy or something. Instead, she walks down the hallway, through the dining room, into the kitchen and says, donut. And I was like, I like the way you roll. You can have one bite and then I'll eat the rest. Yes, thank you. Good reminder there. Because we do have a couple stories to talk about on the other side of this in 46 seconds. So, James Kelly says in super chat, supposedly I heard that a lot of big tractors and big farm equipment have special chips that make it to where you have to use their parts like Tesla's. That's beyond my knowledge, but I would not be particularly surprised if that was the case. I mean, they've done that on kind of like the software side when it comes to the seeds. Why not do it on the hardware? No, actually, no, I am familiar with that. I think we previously talked about lawsuits to try to make it so it's like right to repair, the sort of thing, psychosomatic, that's the thing. Yeah, the right to repair stuff on the farming equipment. I think we have done a clip on that actually. Anyway, thank you for letting us know though. And yeah, we're gonna get back to some more news right up after this. More news in a sec, but I did want to let you know about one of the partnerships we're doing here at TDR, and that is with Noble Mobile, the only wireless plan that lets you take back control of a little bit of your time and a little bit of your data and some money as well. If you sign up for their Noble plan, you get unlimited data for only $50 a month, and for any data below a certain threshold that you don't use, you get credited back to you as cash back at the end of the month. It goes to you where it should be, not to them or the shareholders or anything like that. And over the course of a year, most people say that they, after switching, save about $500 to $1,000 a year on their phone bill. And if you'd like more information about this, you can go to tyt.com/switch. We also have a QR code available on the screen right now, which you can pause and you can scan and find out more. Okay, with that, let's jump into some more news.
You support the Paramount bid for Warner Brothers? That
I don't know enough about it.
You spoke about Netflix last night, saying you have concerns about them.
I know the companies very well. I know what they're doing, but I have to see what percentage of market they have. We have to see the Netflix percentage of market, Paramount, the percentage of market. I mean, none of them are particularly great friends of mine. You know, I want to do what's right. It's so very important to do what's
the
right.
Paramount deal is supported by Jared Kushner, Mr. President. Would that impact your decision?
If Paramount is, I don't know. I've never spoken to him about it. He's really trying to work on Gaza. I think Gaza's his primary thing is Gaza.
Yeah, my son might be involved in another massive and massively lucrative deal, and I don't know anything about it. I mean, I know everything about it. And if you just press a little bit more, I'll talk very in depth about the deal and all of that, but it would probably be better for me if I pretend not to know what my son-in-law is doing in terms of a massive merger, one of the biggest pieces of business news in months. But I don't know about it. I don't know. He's probably working on Gaza. Don't ask me about this media deal he's doing that there's no reason he should be involved in, because what does he know about media? Instead, focus on the Gaza deal he's dealing with. Another thing that, why is he involved in that? Because he doesn't know anything about diplomacy. There's so many things Jared is doing that he's not qualified for. But I am only not qualified to answer questions about what my son-in-law does. And I just want to briefly pause to ask you, if under Joe Biden, there had been questions of a business deal that Hunter Biden was doing, and Joe Biden was asked about that, and he said, I haven't talked to him in a while. Would that be the end of it? Do you think that there would be perhaps a follow-up question? Is that good enough? When we are talking about not only a massively financially lucrative deal Jared Kushner might get if he ends up, like purchasing Warner Brothers or whatever in conjunction with other right-wing billionaires and donors, but also massive control over IPs, over media, really, a massive and important, one of the most important pillars of media right now, which is gonna become even larger if they do this. Would we have any follow-up questions? Obviously we would. How could he possibly be involved in this? And Donald Trump is indicating there that he is not going to be just a passive bystander to all of this. And so if he wants to, he could start to put some pressure, and that could come in a couple of different forms. He could do it in social media, as he has done in regards to media constantly, whether it's about mergers, whether it's about individual hosts, individual comedians even, or he could do it through, the FCC. He could do it, through the actual bureaucracy, trying to steer things in a way that benefits him and his family, which he has done constantly throughout this year. And so that was a great first question, but those questions need to get a lot louder. And the only real point of that is, of course, to inspire someone in Congress to do something about this. And so, look, we're not a business network. I'm not going to jump into too much of this, but you might have heard that there was, Netflix had done this offer to purchase Warner Brothers, and to a normal person, it sounds like, well, that's obviously the end of it, but that isn't the end of it. And now, David Ellison, the CEO of Paramount, which has already been involved in multiple rounds of purchases and consolidation throughout this year, they've now done a new bid to take over Warner Brothers. That is where Jared Kushner comes in. And so this is a massive big money deal, but interestingly, not necessarily a bigger money deal than the deal Warner Brothers already has. And that's where it gets even more corrupt, that theoretically Donald Trump could weigh in, not only to make sure that the business partnership that his son-in-law is involved in wins out, but that Warner Brothers might theoretically be taking less money, which is madness even from a business point of view. And so all of this is insane. All of this is corrupt, and there needs to be more oversight. I don't know what form it could come in. I don't know how much could actually be done. I would love to see, some judges get involved in this, but dear God. And by the way, once we get beyond this administration, can we have like a legislative equivalent of like a Truth and Reconciliation Committee where all of these things that were just norms up until Donald Trump came into town could, I don't know, be like institutionalized in some way? Maybe there could be actual laws, automatic consequences for certain things being done. Could we move in that direction as a country? I think that we're having a time right now that we might be lucky enough to get past, but I feel like we could stop it from happening a second time, or in this case, a third time. Anyway, with that said, I want to have a little bit of fun. So it's going to be at Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth's. Okay, yes, I think we can do it. Let's jump into this.
Mr. President, you said you would have no problem with releasing the full video of that strike on September 2nd off the coast of Venezuela. Secretary Hegseth now says...
That's you said that. I didn't say that. This is ABC fake news.
Are you committed to releasing the full video?
Didn't I just tell you that?
You said that it was
You're
up to
the most
Secretary Hegseth.
obnoxious reporter in the whole place. Let me just tell you, you are an obnoxious, actually a terrible reporter. And it's always the same thing with you. I told you, whatever Pete Hegseth wants to do is okay with me.
So first, shut up, pigskin. Second of all, if the reference to fake news and the fact that he lost his mind on her wasn't evidence enough for you, he's lying. He's lying. She had a great question about him saying, yeah, no, it'd be perfectly cool. They could release the video. That's fine. I don't have a problem with it. Yeah, no, he totally said that. He totally said it like 5.5 days ago on camera. How did he think that he was gonna get away with this lie? And by the way, you don't have to just trust me. Here is the video.
You released video of that first boat strike on September 2nd, but not the second video. Will you release video of that strike so that the American people can see for themselves what happened?
I don't know what they have, but whatever they have, we'd certainly release, no problem.
Not only did he say in substance what the first reporter said that he said, she used the exact words, no problem, and he loses his mind. And I see people in the chat speculating that it isn't that he's lying, it's that his dementia is just making it so that he can't remember 5 days ago. That's possible. And by the way, the freaking out that we saw, that's a thing that some people with Alzheimer's do experience, when the incongruity in their memory is pointed out by people that can lead to lashing out. It's really hard in a lot of families. Maybe that's what Donald Trump is experiencing, but regardless, the end effect is the same. He said a few days ago, totally cool for you to see the video. And it's possible at that point that he hadn't seen it and that he hadn't consulted with the lawyers and with Pete Hegseth and everything. But now that they've looked into it more, and now that they realize that people are serious about investigating this, all of a sudden, all of them are a lot more worried about releasing this thing. And so let's go to Pete Hegseth asked basically the same question.
Mr. Secretary, you will be releasing that full video.
We are reviewing it right now.
Is that a yes or no?
That is, the most important thing to me are the ongoing operations in the Caribbean with our folks that use bespoke capabilities, techniques, procedures in the process. I'm way more interested in protecting that than anything else. So reviewing the process and we'll see.
Yeah, but I just asked if you're gonna release the video. That has nothing to do with the mission that you're doing. The most important thing to me, bespoke lethality, sword mission thing, plane flight lethality. Dude, that has nothing to do with what are you talking about? Why is he hunching his shoulders like that all of a sudden? That's not an alpha posture, dude. Come on, stretch out, take up some space or something. No, he got real squirrely all of a sudden when they asked to release the video. And I don't understand why, because I've been told it's totally cool. I was told by Tom Cotton, it proves that those guys who just narrowly avoided death and they're surrounded by corpses, there was nothing they wanted to do more than was to turn the thing over and bring those drugs to America somehow, even though the boat couldn't get there, to kill another 1 billion Americans. They're like the T-1000, nothing was gonna stop them in their mission. And so why wouldn't you wanna show that to us? Wouldn't that make you look so great? So tough, like a real military boy? But all of a sudden he doesn't want to, and all of a sudden Donald Trump doesn't really want to. Well, in brief, maybe we'll talk more about this tomorrow. Congress, in considering the annual defense policy bill, are apparently considering twisting the screws to get him to release that full video by withholding a quarter of his travel budget if he fails to give not only the video, but also the copy of the execute orders behind the strikes to them. So they're gonna dock him a quarter of his travel pay or whatever. That's man, I love that they're taking away part of his allowance. Treat him like the tiny little baby boy that he is. I love it, normalize this. And by the way, they do actually have the authority to require this stuff. That does not mean that the executive branch is going to comply with it, but if they don't, they will actually be breaking the law. And so we'll see who will blink. Will it be Congress, will it be Hegseth? But you'd love to see it because we gotta get to the bottom of this thing. It's incredibly likely that war crimes were actually committed. Okay, that's all the time we have for the first hour of the show. Thank you everyone for watching. If you're watching live though, there is more to come in the aftermath, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back, Dragon Squad, to the aftermath where we have your comments. We're gonna have a lot more news to get to, including a little bit of talk about 2028, which obviously I always have one eye on. But in advance of that, don't forget about our sponsor, Noble Mobile. You can save money by using your phone less and get unlimited data for $50 a month, tyt.com/switch. But let's see what you all have been getting up to in the comments. Mark NYC says, are you planning a 1 year of Trump 47 misery party, John? Tuesday, January 20th. You know, it's funny that you say that because during the first term, Brett and his wife would throw, I can't believe he's still in Power Hour parties on the year anniversary of the election. We forgot to do that. Also, can we still do Power Hours? We might be a little bit old for it, but yeah, maybe we should do that for the inauguration this year. That might be fun. Okay, what else? Let's see. Over on Twitch, Apollo Racer's been here for 46 months, says, wow, 46 months, hard to believe 4 years have gone by. Well, almost, don't get ahead of yourself, but almost. Late bloomer Mad Grandma has been here for 65 months, says 65 months with John Solo. See, that's a long time, but no, 4 years is still very long too. Mr. Unknown at 59 months, thank you. Angie Pepper for 60, says, so this Irish goodbye is waste, fraud, and abuse, right? Right? Yeah, just add it to the long list of all of the wasted money, wasted time, and all of that. The 505 Wrecking Ball, 37 months, thank you so much. And with that, let's jump into some news. It may only be the end of 2025 and the 2028 Democratic primary is still some time away. We have to get through those pesky midterms and all that. But the early field is starting to crystallize a little bit, both in the eyes of the public, but also in terms of like the camps that are setting up and how they're responding to things, what sorts of other candidates they're supporting and all of that. And so I want to take a look at some of the data, especially for younger voters, and see where the energy is going to rest as we launch into this primary. And right now we have the Yale Youth Poll for fall of 2025. The results have been released, and here's what we've got. Right now, you can see that overall, across all voters, Gavin Newsom, perhaps unsurprisingly, is leading at 25%. Bear in mind though, it's a pretty split field. I mean, Kamala Harris is at 18%. You have AOC at 16, Pete Buttigieg at 14, and then a pretty massive drop off there. Josh Shapiro at 4, Tim Walz at 3. And this is reminding me a lot more of like the 2020 Democratic primary field rather than the 2016. We don't have, like a runaway, like with the lead sort of person like a Hillary Clinton this time around. Gavin Newsom, I'm sure is quite happy to see this, but he's not at 50%. He's certainly not at 75%. And then moving down the overall field, really importantly, where's the support coming from? So right here, you can see that Gavin Newsom is very popular amongst the 65 plus field. He's got some support amongst all groups, but it tends to be in that 45 plus, especially the 65 plus field. Now, really interestingly, while Kamala Harris is, she's hardly like a rabid progressive or anything. She politically probably isn't that different from Gavin Newsom. Her base of support actually is kind of different. You can see that only 11% of the 65 plus support is going to her. She has more of like the middle-aged or right around there support. And also, let's acknowledge this, Harris comes in second when it comes to 18 to 22-year-old voters. The youngest voters being polled, she gets 20% of that support, quite a bit more than Gavin Newsom is getting. And then of course you go to AOC and you can see that her chart looks totally different than the rest of them. She's got a lot of youth support, a lot of people in their 20s, people in their lower 30s. And then it sort of tails off from there. And you can see that she's like dominating in some of these lower groups. So why is it that she's at 16%? Why is she in third? Well, it's because she only has 5% of that 65 plus group. And more importantly, bear in mind, all of those different age demographic slices are not equal in size. And I could actually prove that pretty easily. Let's move on to Pete Buttigieg. Pete Buttigieg has very little support amongst the younger voters, even into the 20s, the 30s. He's not getting a lot of it, pretty consistent, 8 to 12%, but you can see that he gets 18% of the senior vote. For some reason, those seniors kind of like them some Pete Buttigieg. And because he has 18% of that group, and that group is itself larger, he gets to 14% and is currently beating out all of those other non-Gavin Newsom Democratic governors. So the Waltz, the Shapiros, probably Pritzker maybe is in the other group, that sort of thing. And so right now, that's what you've got. And overall, maybe this top 4 isn't that surprising. These are 4 of the biggest, most talked about names, on the Democratic side. And then you get down to like, well, how do you feel about that as a progressive? I mean, I know that we have a lot of different sorts of people that watch our videos. I'd love to see in the comments, which of these candidates are you currently going for? And feel free to post that in the video as well. If you're Gavin Newsom, you're probably happy about this. Harris indicated in some sort of interview earlier this week that you haven't seen the last of her. We don't know for sure what form that will come in. She could run again. It seems like we're still kind of in the immediate aftermath of 2024. The idea that we would try again with her after what we just experienced, that's pretty hard to imagine. But Joe Biden ran for president for 40 years and he eventually won. Maybe Harris runs again in 2020, or maybe she doesn't. Maybe she runs in 2032. She's not that old. So she certainly could plot some sort of comeback, especially if she creates some sort of next phase for herself. As of right now, she did her book tour, but that's pretty much been it. A few interviews. I don't know what most people would say her thing is these days. She's just kind of the person who, lost to Donald Trump. And that's not the identity you want if you're plotting some sort of eventual comeback. So then we get to AOC. Now, I would love it if AOC right now was already in first. I would love it if she was a commanding first. And that's unfortunately not the world we live in. As in every other case, I don't get what I want. But she is down by 9 points to Gavin Newsom. Or another way to put it, she has 2/3 of the support of Gavin Newsom. When you put it that way, it's not too bad. This New York congresswoman, who now has been in office for a good number of years, but we still think of her as being very new, has 2/3 of the support of the most talked about Democratic governor in the country, who has constantly been in the news because of his feuds with Donald Trump, is the governor of the largest, the biggest economy and all of that. And she already has 2/3 of the support, including having, a chokehold on, I'm gonna say the younger support, but we're not talking about just 18-year-olds up into their 30s. By the way, people are gonna age up 3 more years by the time we get to this primary. That's gonna hurt the group in the 65+ category more than it is those in the younger category. And so this is still really early, and a lot of you are gonna accurately say anything can happen, and anything definitely can happen. I just think we're in a better position than we were in 2016, where Bernie Sanders started off with very little support, and it took 2015 and all the rallies he was doing to generate that support. But it also demonstrates that that can happen, and if you're already starting at a better, starting point, she can do that same thing, and she'll likely have Bernie Sanders, campaigning for her. So I don't know if we're necessarily in a better position than we were in 2020. Bernie seemed pretty strong going into that, into the early contests. It really looked like he could win. Joe Biden, for the first year of the primary, didn't look strong at all. Again, evidence that anything can happen. But I think that we shouldn't count the progressives out. And right now, we have AOC. I know Shapiro's good on some issues. I like Tim Walz on a number of issues. But there can and almost certainly will be a lot of other progressives that will run. And that's both good and bad. It's good because maybe some of them will start showing up in these lists. Maybe some of them will start to drive the political conversation. But it could also split some of the support. You could say the same thing for the establishment side, although they figured out how to get around that with Joe Biden. Pete Buttigieg, I'm sure, would be more than happy to drop out right before Super Tuesday if that means he gets to be Gavin Newsom's VP or something. Again, knock on wood, we don't know for sure that that's the way it's gonna go. But anyway, it's just something to look forward to. There's a lot of time between now and then, but if we're lucky enough to survive this period, this Trump term, something to look forward to. We could end up with a good president in 2028. Okay, with that, I'm gonna read a few comments, then we're gonna really lighten things up, talk about a little bit more grifting. Let's see. Ravaging Wolverine earlier in the show had told me that when I appear on Alex's show tonight, John, be sure to talk about your animal fantasy stories. I can't think of a worse way to be brought back than for me to start talking about animals going on adventures. I honestly think that I could do the rant that I did earlier about the Chad meme and have a better chance of coming back than that. People get weird about the animal stuff. But anyway, let's see. Purple Binky Dragon says in a super chat, with the holidays, I'm worried about being with people in my family that are MAGA light, looking for duct tape to keep quiet. Yeah, I hope for you that, if you are forced to be around people with those beliefs, at least maybe they'll keep it to themselves. There's no reason why you need to talk about that in Christmas. And remember too, they might be a little bit less jazzed up to talk about it because he's doing so poorly, but they also are likely to be really defensive about it because he's doing so poorly. So I would be careful about broaching the subject because their feelings are probably ready to be hurt. Okay, let's jump into this next story. Grocery prices are high and the price of pretty much everything is high. People are really worried about their insurance premiums doubling or tripling or quadrupling in the near future. And what's the first lady decide to post? Her new expensive designer handbag, but don't worry, it's for charity or something. So Melania Trump apparently helped to design a multi-$1,000 luxury bag that she plugged on Twitter. And look, you're gonna see a photo of it right here. It's the Unity bag, because anybody can buy it. It's like $1,800 or something. That's ridiculous. But anyway, it also, importantly, doesn't look like much of anything for the price you're gonna be paying. So it's right up her alley for most of her grift. Now, I'm not as mad as I could be about this particular grift because at least when you waste $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 on this bag, you're getting a physical object. Over the last couple of years, mostly Melania's just been selling you, ones and zeros, JPEGs for countless thousands of dollars. So this is a little bit less grifty, but it's still a lot of money. Now, she would have you believe that this is in fact a charitable endeavor because by buying this bag, by mortgaging your house and buying this bag, you can support the Fostering the Future program, which gives foster youth access to college, eventually leading to job security and financial independence. And she is not technically wrong about that. I just think that if Melania Trump really cared about the foster, child community or whatever, like she's a billionaire. Like rather than giving, 20% of this, like a couple $100 per bag, like couldn't you give $50 million yourself and have it have no discernible or even potentially discernible impact on your quality of life or your standard of living? And that's the issue with almost any of these charities, these rich people. They could single-handedly solve the problem if they wanted to, but they don't want to. What they want to do is provide an opportunity for you to solve a little bit of the problem while most of that money goes to them. So rather than giving up a bit of her money to help out these kids, she's gonna make bank while putting like pictures of the kids in front of her or whatever. It's just posturing, really. That's all it is. And also, and let's not skip over this, it's not a good looking bag. I don't know, can we zoom in or whatever? Like it's a black bag with 2 golden loops on it. You're gonna pay thousands of dollars. You're telling me that Home Goods doesn't have a comparable bag for $50? Producer Mike looked it up. You can find bags exactly like that for less than $50 online right now. And you might say, well, that doesn't have the Melania Trump name on it. And I agree, thus making it more valuable. And also probably made in the exact same factory in China. But anyway, she not only wants your money, she also wants credit for the design. The actual designer, Alexandra Gucci, says, we worked closely together on it and she was very much involved in the design and the details. She has amazing style and taste. She's, impeccable. I don't know, she did marry Donald Trump, and have you seen the house she lives in? I'm not sure about her taste. Also, like, could we just one more time put up the bag? She was very involved in the design and the details. It's roughly a black square with 2 golden loops. How much time did they put into the details? How many meetings did they have? How much credit do you want for your creativity when it looks like if you asked ChatGPT to just generate an overpriced luxury handbag? But anyway, we're supposed to be very, very impressed by this. And if we jump ahead to graphic 4, yes, 20% of the purchase price goes to the Unity bag from that to Fostering the Future, which I guess is good. But again, if she wanted to, she could just give a whole boatload of money herself rather than putting out Yet another product. So many products, so many opportunities to personally profit when she's supposed to be focusing on service and on country. Anyway, with that said, let's have a little bit of fun starting with this.
So the question is lowering the cost of food in airports, and again, it's interesting. It's market demand and supply. They have people, pretty tightly contained, and there's not a lot of options. And so I don't have a plan to reduce costs.
Sean Duffy, the transportation secretary, is going to get a lot of criticism for that. And look, if you want to criticize him, you can. He shouldn't have the job. He's not qualified for it. He's a reality show guy, but at least he was honest there, right? I mean, he said, I don't have a plan. And beyond just, passing the buck to market forces or whatever, he also kind of explained why he doesn't have a plan. It is market forces, and I guess it is. Now, look, market forces have been contained any number of different ways in the broader economy. If they really wanted to do something, they could do something. At the very least, Donald Trump could fire off a Truth Social post about how, like the bookstores need to stop overcharging for their protein bars. Like you could do something, but he doesn't hide the fact that he's not going to do anything. And that is refreshing. I mean, so many of the parts of the Trump administration lie to you, pretending they're going to do something. And then when they don't, I think it like doubly stings. I prefer Sean Duffy's approach. They're not going to do anything to get prices down. Now, that doesn't mean that they're not going to do anything in the airports or even stuff having to do with food. Oh, they're going to mess with you. They're going to meddle with what's going on there, just not in like a productive way. But I'll let him tell you about it.
I want to expand the play areas for kids. I want additional nursing pods for nursing mothers. Maybe I want a workout area where people might get some blood flow and doing some pull-ups or some step-ups in the airport. But it could be any range of things. Maybe you want to work, I know this is TSA, but we're going to help on this as well. Maybe you want to have a different lane for families to get through TSA. How can we make the experience better?
I'm sure there's one person in the audience like, you can make the food less expensive. That would be great. I just flew. I mean, it is wildly expensive. You could do that, couldn't you? Could we like stop with the shoe thing, that we've done for like decades and haven't needed? Could we stop with that? Now, look, some of the stuff that he said, I don't have a problem with. You want to have more nursing pods. You want to expand, the kid play areas. That's fine. I think the focus on families, I think is a positive thing, I suppose. But did he only say the pull-up thing because RFK Jr. was looming like lurch behind him? Let me just put out there that the literal last thing I want on a plane is for the guy sitting next to me to have been doing pull-ups before he sat next to me. I'm already assailed on all sides by weird aromas from food and feet and all that. I don't need him working up a good sweat before he gets on the plane. And who thinks that the problem facing people who are traveling is there's not enough opportunities to do step-ups or whatever? What a weird diversion right there. Do we have time to just focus lastly on RFK Jr.? Take a look at this.
All of the ingenuity of corporate America, all the resources, all the resourcefulness has not produced an infant formula that is superior in nutrition and all the qualities that we want to the infant formula that God made, which is the infant formula in a mother's breast. We at HHS are encouraging mothers to breastfeed as long as possible because there is no better food for your brain, for your gut microbiome, for your physical growth, for your emotional growth, than what's in God-given breast milk.
Now, I have to disagree with him there. I think that is good for your brain, but I think salvaged roadkill bear or whale is pretty good for your brain too. That's the true brain food. But anyway, look, I don't have an issue with him encouraging people to breastfeed. I do question how much he knows about breastfeeding and how not just like a thing that's totally up to the mom it is for a lot of people. Like it's very easy for him to just say that's the best thing, and if you're not doing it, you're doing wrong by your kid, which I think is an effed up thing to do. Lots of people have trouble with the whole breastfeeding thing. But the bigger issue I have with that, and the reason I want to show it to you is I'm not saying we should get more of the weird poetry that he was sending to the woman he was having an emotional affair with, but I do think that if we do get more of it, I can't wait to see the part that's gonna be about breast milk, because that dude was really interested in the subject, and I bet he came up with some really disgusting ways to talk about it when it wasn't at a press conference. In any event, let's just, we go to this last graphic. So then they decided to do some like pull-ups or whatever, and someone in the chat just reminded me, and I'll end with this. So what exactly does Sean Duffy want me to do? So it's not good enough for me to wear jeans and a t-shirt. I need to be wearing a 3-piece suit, but also I need to be firing off some reps. I'm wearing a suit, man. I don't want to sweat through it. How many of these do you think I have? Anyway, that's gonna be it for today's show. Thank you everyone for watching the John Solo program. If you could, if you're late enough, you're up late enough, please watch live and post on socials, post at CNN about my appearance on The Story Is Tonight with Alex Michelson. If you wanna see more of me, more progressive voices on these shows, show support and show to CNN that this is a thing that actually resonates. So either way, I'll be here tomorrow for Big News Wednesday with Sharon. I hope to see you there as well. For now, stay safe out there, stay sane out there. We'll see you soon.